So, how do you make a random Necron list work? And this is a random list. This is the list that you voted for on my community tab. I'm going to have a look at this list and I'm going to share how I'm going to make it work. And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, here we are with another Necron Tactical video. I have my new microphone. Hopefully the sound is good. And I can't wait to make this video because we're going to have a good look at the randomly chosen Necron list that you guys voted for on my community tab. And then we're going to try to make it work on the table. So, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for voting on the polls to get this list built. We did 28 votes in total, all random, all your choice. However, I have to say, you did pretty well. I was very impressed that you didn't stitch me up and make me play the Convergence of Dominion stones, because I had a funny feeling you were going to do that, but you were all pretty sensible. However, taking a random list and trying to make it work on the table is what this video is about. So hopefully, as I go through the list and my thought process and my tactics behind how I'm going to play this list will help you when it comes to list building. Now, of course, a lot of people will play the latest meta. The Star Shatter Arsenal is the current in thing with the Silent King, Doomsday Arcs. I am going to play that detachment on the channel. You're going to see list building videos and battle reports with that detachment. But not today. As I said, today is about playing lists that maybe people aren't expecting. Personally, I find this a lot of fun. So, hit the like button and let's do this. Okay, so when I started these polls about the list on the channel, the Star Shatter detachment wasn't out yet. So I was very interested to see which detachment you would like me to play on the channel. I was hoping that you wouldn't pick the Hypercrypt Legion, purely because I'd been playing that quite a lot anyway. And you didn't choose that, you chose the Awakened Dynasty. I was actually very happy with this choice, purely for the fact that I haven't really played the Awakened Dynasty much at all. Obviously, it was the Index army, and I played it quite a lot when it was an Index army. However, I didn't really make full use of the detachment. Obviously, the detachment benefit is units that are led by a character get +1 to hit. And, well, in the Index, I was only playing one, maybe two units that were led by characters, because I was playing a destroyer-heavy army at the time. It was the army that I was sort of playing towards the end of 9th edition, and I was adapting it to play it in 10th edition. I had a lot of fun with that, but yeah, not benefiting from the detachment rules. But I was hoping that you guys would give me a list that would benefit from the rules, and something which I could have a lot of fun playing. As I said, this detachment leans on units being led, and you leaned in that quite heavily. We had 8 characters in total, 6 of them being able to lead units. The 8 characters that you chose were Illuminor, Imhotep the Stormlord, Orokin, Hexmark Destroyer, Plasmancer, Royal Warden, Skorpek Lord, and a Locust Lord. A good mixture of characters. And of course, the way we went about building the list, we were of course trying to allocate units for these characters to join. We ended up with 3 battle line units, 10 Immortals with Tester Carbines, 20 Necron Warriors with Gauss Flayers, and 20 Necron Warriors with Gauss Reapers. We then had some other detachments, and you chose a Doomsday Arc, 6 Locust Destroyers, 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Gauss Destructor, and 6 Skorpek Destroyers. We rounded out the list to 2,000 points with enhancements. We had the Veil of Darkness on the Locust Lord and the Dermal Bond on the Skorpek Lord. The Dermal Bond giving him a 4+, Feel No Pain. So those are the units that you chose. We're going to take a look at how you allocated, randomly, your choice, those characters to the different units that we have. Now, bearing in mind that we do have 8 characters, and we're very susceptible to give up assassination. Now, sometimes when you play a themed list or a fun list or a list which isn't optimized, you do sometimes end up being a little susceptible, let's say, to certain things because, well, you're not optimized. However, it doesn't mean that you can't make the list work. I think having the right mindset is the key thing when it comes to playing any type of list, especially if you're a beginner or you're just learning your army, because let's face it, not that many of us actually go to tournaments, or if we do go to tournaments, we don't go to win at all costs. We go to have fun, roll some dice, meet new people. So the way to play an unusual list is to have a battle plan in mind, and this battle plan isn't just about Necrons. This can be for any faction that you're playing. Now, one of the key things to having a battle plan is to allocate units to different roles, and these role names can be anything. I'm going to go with the old school names for these roles, and that is attack, defense and support. Regardless of the units that you have in your army, you need to allocate the units to one of these 3 roles to give you a good idea of what those units are trying to do on the table. They may not be the optimum unit to do that role, but allocating different roles to the units will give you a better overview of how the army is going to work on the table. It will keep you on track with the tactics that you're going to use when you're playing in the heat of battle, and will overall allow you to play any list. The names speak for themselves. The attacking units will go out and attack your opponent's army. Defense are the units which tend to stand back, defend your ground, defend your home objective, and of course support will support both the attack and the defense. Now, a defending unit can also be an attacking unit, which we'll talk more about in a minute. But if you build your list and allocate your units to one of those 3 categories, and to make sure that you have, well, complementary units in each category so they all work together, well, that's the key to making a list work. Okay, so back to your list. Now we're going to have a look at how you allocated the characters to units and what that in turn means for those units. And then we're going to take a look at how I plan to use all of these units on the table. Now, if you're enjoying this video and also you love Necrons, then why not subscribe? Because this channel is all about Necrons, and I'm on a mission to try to get to 30,000 subscribers this year. So if you can help make that happen, that would be awesome. Now, we've got 2 characters which are not going to be joining units. The first one is the Hexmark Destroyer, which can actually have a multi-role option. You've got 2 ways to sort of use the Hexmark Destroyer. One is to reserve it and deep strike in to help you with secondary objectives, or just to get onto areas of the board which could be quite difficult to get to. But the other option is to just sit him on your home objective. Of course, he's lone operative, so it's really difficult to target from a distance, and he can just sort of sit on your home objective. Now, depending on my list, I will use him in either one of those 2 ways. Of course, if I put the Hexmark Destroyer in reserve, he's going to be a support unit, and if I put him on my home objective, he's a defense unit. However, the other character which we have, which isn't going to lead a unit, is Illuminor Xeris. Now, I haven't played Illuminor in 10th edition yet. I just haven't had a list where I think he would fit into very well. However, I think he fits into this list really well, and I was very surprised actually when I took a closer look at Illuminor's rules, because his rules are actually pretty good, or certainly an improvement in some ways to what they were in 9th edition. So he starts off with a very nice 4+ Feel No Pain, and he has Lone Op when he's within 3 inches of a Necron's unit. That's pretty nice. Now, his augmentation rule has changed quite a bit. It used to be very random. You rolled a dice, picked a unit, and then you gave that ability to the unit for the rest of the game. I think it was +1 to toughness, +1 to strength, and +1 to AP, I believe. However, it is totally different now, and I think it's a lot better. A battle line unit within 3 inches of Illuminor gets a buff to their AP when shooting and in assault, and also a nerf to your opponent, -1 AP if they attack you. Again, both combat and shooting. That's pretty useful. He does have the ability to extend the 3-inch range if he kills something in close combat. That, though, probably isn't going to happen that often, but it's a nice ability. Overall, Illuminor, I think, has definitely got better, especially if you've got a lot of battle line units, which we have. Now, of course, Illuminor's pretty much going to be a support unit. He's going to be supporting those battle line units. However, the next unit can be either a support unit or an attacking unit. Okay, so next you chose a big unit, 6 Locust Destroyers and a Locust Lord. Now, the Lord's got the Blade, he's got the Resurrection Orb, good choice, and he's got the Veil of Darkness. Now, originally, the Veil of Darkness was actually on the Skorpek Lord, but we had to change things around as the list progressed, and in this case, the Veil of Darkness went over to the Locust Lord. So that means, of course, I can teleport this unit once per battle across the table. Pretty useful. Now, usually this unit would be a support unit. Stand back maybe to the flank and you've got covering fire with those guns. However, with the Veil of Darkness added to this unit, it can also be an attacking unit. So multi-roles, and that's always good. Right, next up it's Imitek the Stormlord, and you've allocated him to go with the warriors and the Gauss Flayer unit of warriors. So 20 warriors with Imitek. Now, Imitek, of course, has the ability to farm CPs, but he's not just a CP farm, because Imitek isn't actually that bad in close combat, but also he has the ability to do mortal wounds when he gets close to your enemy. Now, you've put this guy with the Gauss Flayers, which means, of course, they can stand back and shoot and get a reasonable amount of shots, which means, I suppose, arguably, he would be better off at the back of the army CP farming. But what I find with Imitek is, whilst that sounds really good, and yes, I will take 5 CPs in the whole of the game, extra, if he sort of survives the whole game, but also it seems a waste of time to not actually get those mortal wounds off and get him into combat. And, well, let's face it, he's a fun character. He's going to be the warlord of the army, which you chose. Well done, because I think Imitek, if he's on the table, well, unless the Silent King is there, Imitek should be the warlord. So, yeah, I'm in 2 minds about this unit. We're going to talk more about that in a bit. But first of all, let's continue with the other units. We've got Orokin with the Royal Warden and the other unit of 20 warriors, and this is the Gauss Reaper one. So ideally, you do want to be getting these guys closer, and that's very nice to see that we have the 4+ invulnerable save from Orokin there, because as they get closer, of course, they're going to take a little bit more heat. Now, not only that, but the Royal Warden in this unit is a great combination. Well done, guys, for picking this. The Royal Warden lets you fall back and then shoot, and also re-assault if you want to. So this unit definitely is an attacking unit. This is a unit that just wants to push forward and try to take as many shots as it can. Not only that, but if we have Illuminor nearby, of course, their guns become AP2 as opposed to AP1. That's nasty. We then have the Plasmancer going with the 10 Tesla Immortals, a pretty standard combination. Just one character with these Immortals on this occasion. The Plasmancer, of course, gives us the 5+ critical hits. Doesn't work in Overwatch, but any 5+ will be sustained. So it's sustained 2. So on a 5 or a 6, you get 2 extra hits. Really nice. Not only that, but of course the Plasmancer is able to do some mortal wounds as well. Mortal wounds is always nice. Battle line units can make quite good attacking units, but they can also make quite good defending units, and they can make quite good supporting units, depending on the list. In this list, I'm going to have to work out which role I'm going to allocate them, but we'll do that in a minute. Now we're going to look at the next unit being led, the last unit, and that is the Skorpek Lord. And he's going to be leading, of course, the 6 Skorpek Destroyers. Now, the Skorpek Lord has the Dermal Bond, a 4+, Feel No Pain. That's really going to help him. And, of course, being an assault unit, well, I say of course, because an assault unit doesn't automatically mean it's an attacking unit. You can easily use this as a support unit or even a defense unit. You can have these sort of hanging out in your backfield, and then if somebody comes in to try to take your home objective, you've got a counter defense unit. Just because it's an assault unit doesn't mean it's an attacking unit. Don't fall into that trap. The key thing is to allocate the units within these 3 different categories to give you a good mixture of these categories. Okay, so next up, what have we got? We've got a Doomsday Ark and 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers, which is the only unit which can be led, which isn't. So yeah, Gauss Destructors and the Locust Heavy Destroyers, they don't necessarily need that +1 to hit, because they can of course stand still and get a +1 to hit anyway. I mean, it can be quite useful maybe to counter a -1 to hit from your opponent, but we do have another option here, because we've got the Stratagem, which will make this unit an assault gun unit, which of course means you can move without any penalties. So that is how you've allocated all of these units, and that's our final list. Okay, so when I look at the whole of this list, and I'm looking at the Hexmark Destroyer, which is where I'm going to start, I feel like the best place for the Hexmark Destroyer is probably on my home objective. With this particular list, I think it'd be quite well surrounded with other units. I think my home objective could be potentially fairly secure, even with just the Hexmark Destroyer on it. However, I do feel I've got a little bit of a lack of secondary objective abilities with this list. So regardless of whether the Hexmark Destroyer should be on my home objective, I think actually I need to use him to go out and do some secondary objectives. So this guy is going to go in reserve. He's going to be a support unit for the army. Now, this is assuming that I'm going to be playing the Pariah Nexus 10th edition mission deck. If I was going to play different rules, like for example my homebrew Overlord rules, then I probably would actually put him on my home objective, because I don't need to go out and do those secondaries. However, for Pariah Nexus, he's going to be in reserve, and he's going to help me get behind enemy lines or deploy locusts or whatever secondaries that I need him to do. And that means I've got to come up with a unit to go on my home objective. Now, potentially I could put the Doomsday Ark on it, or the Locust Heavy Destroyers on it. However, sometimes when you have a unit on your home objective, especially a long-ranged shooting unit, it can be quite difficult to get line of sight. So I think I need a different unit on there, and looking at all of the units that I have in this list, I think it's going to have to be the Plasmancer with the Immortals. Now, yes, the Plasmancer with Immortals, to make full use of what this unit is supposed to do, which is effectively shooting, probably would be better off slightly more midfield. However, I think it's going to work on my home objective. It's going to be a defending unit. If anyone comes close, I've got a lot of shots to hopefully deal with them. Plus, their gun range is actually pretty decent, so I'm going to be able to hit a reasonable amount of the board if I put them in a central position, depending on terrain, of course. So on this occasion, I have allocated my Immortals and Plasmancer to be the defending unit. However, this doesn't mean that I can't push them forward if needed, and then maybe slot other units onto my home objective. So in front of this unit of Immortals, I'm going to put Illuminor. At least then, if I end up pushing this unit forward, hopefully I'll get within range of Illuminor, and that of course will give me that extra AP benefits. Now, of course, talking of AP benefits, Illuminor is going to be near the battle line units, and I'm going to have both of my battle line units up front, in front of Illuminor, taking full use of his special ability. And these units are going to be my attacking units. Two big blobs of Necron warriors, supported by a lot of characters and Illuminor. They're going to push forward onto central objectives and try to hold them and cause as much damage as I can. I'm then going to support these units with the Doomsday Arc and the Locust Heavy Destroyers. They're going to go to the flanks, one on each side of the Immortals. Now, these units are support units. They're also defense units because of where I placed them. But not only that, they're also attacking units because they both have, of course, long-ranged nasty guns that will be attacking any tanks, etc. that I need to remove. Quite multi-rolled, but that's the great thing about units which can stand back and shoot quite a bit. They can support, they can attack, and they can defend. We'll then move on to my next multi-rolled task unit, the Locust Lord with the Locust Destroyers. They're going to start off as a supporting unit for the Warrior Blobs, and then they are going to attack at some point. The Veil of Darkness giving me the option to obviously teleport across the board. Really nice synergy with that Hexmark Destroyer in reserve. However, it's not going to stop there because I have one more unit left, the Scorpek Destroyers, and I'm going to put those in reserve with the intention, if needed, to rapid ingress them. The Scorpek Destroyers could come on as a support unit if I'm in trouble somewhere, but also, and more likely, they're going to come on as an attacking unit. Having that unit in reserve, being able to rapid ingress with all the assaults that they have, +1 to hit, because of course, joined with a character, that 4+, feel no pain on the character. This unit is going to attack and hopefully do a reasonable amount of damage. I have all my bases covered with this list. It doesn't mean that I'm going to win with this list, but it certainly means I've got a chance and I have a plan with the list. However, the key thing I'm going to take away from this, and this is where having a positive attitude towards playing games and playing with unusual lists, is I'm going to pick one thing that I want to see in action, and I'm going to concentrate on working out how that goes. And in this case, I want to look at Illuminor because it's a unit I haven't really played in 10th edition. Well, I haven't played it in 10th edition, so I'm very interested to see it work on the table. And I'm going to concentrate my efforts in this particular game with this particular list on seeing how he actually performs. Is it a unit worth investing those points when I do want to play a more competitive list? Is that a unit I should be looking at, or maybe not? Experiencing playing with units is so much more beneficial than just reading the rules and thinking, that looks good, I think that will work well. You never know until you've played. And of course, the synergy of that unit with other units is the key thing of whether it's going to work or not. So yeah, I'm going to concentrate on looking at Illuminor and how he works with the warriors, because I don't really play warrior blobs that much. And I'm going to see how it all unfolds. Whatever my opponent takes, it's going to be interesting. I have no idea what my opponent will have and how it will cope with this list. Some opponents will be able to counter this list more than others, which of course is the fun of Warhammer 40k. Now, as I said, I'm going to be doing a battle report with this list on the channel, so yeah, make sure you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I would love you to watch this video here. It's an older video from 8th edition, but it's all about deploying your army. And actually, I'm using exactly those deployment tactics in this list. So yeah, go and check that out next.